Welcome to Victory News. It's Thursday, October the 24th, 2024. I'm Greg Stevens, along with Mike Garofalo, Fiora Hernandez, and Tim Fox, and these are the stories that we're watching for you right now. The Biden-Harris administration has reportedly been transporting illegal immigrants overwhelming California's border, well, to other states. We'll talk with political strategist Luke Ball about it. And heavy early voting turnout in the swing state of Wisconsin overwhelmed systems, leading to long wait lines. The executive director of Grassroots America, Joanne Fleming, joins us to talk about the upcoming November election. But first, let's go to Fiora Hernandez with our headlines. Fiora.
Thank you, Greg. Some Republican lawmakers say they were not shocked by the latest top-secret intelligence leak out of the Pentagon. Townhall.com reports the leak, which was revealed over the weekend, demonstrates someone with top-secret security clearance gave Iran U.S. intelligence about Israel's attack plans inside the terrorist-funding nation. Representative Brian Mass of Florida pointed out how it hurt Israel's and our own interests in multiple ways.
Literally an act of treason. Where does that come from and how does it affect us? Israel, as you said, I can't add more to it. They are our greatest aircraft carrier in the region. The best place for any operations to support the United States of America in that region come from Israel, whether it's against Iranian proxies like Hezbollah or whether it's against any of our enemies there.
Earlier this week, Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik said this about the leak.
The fact that this classified information was leaked, not only does it really hurt our credibility with our allies around the world in terms of intelligence sharing, but it also, I'm concerned about the lack of urgency from this administration.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin had reportedly been warned in September about the main suspect, Chief of Staff to the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations, Ariane Tabatabai, and her direct relationship with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Congresswoman Stefanik says the person who broke the law by leaking classified information, quote, should be in prison. If Vice President Kamala Harris is clear on one policy, it is the killing of unborn children. But the Western Journal reports her remarks during a Tuesday interview with NBC News' Holly Jackson have now put pro-life groups on alert that she wants to force medical professionals to perform abortions regardless of their own religious beliefs.
What concessions would be on the table? Religious exemptions, for example? Is that something that you would consider?
I don't think we should be making concessions when we're talking about a fundamental freedom to make decisions about your own body.
Organizations like the Center for Baptist Leadership described her comments as chilling, remarking, quote, this means that all Christian hospitals, healthcare providers, businesses, etc., would be forced to provide cover abortion if she got her way, end quote. The National Review described the position as effectively forcing healthcare providers to perform the medical procedure in violation of their moral conscience. The Republican National Committee has kicked off a comprehensive election integrity effort made up of over 200,000 volunteer poll watchers and a team of attorneys working with both the RNC and Donald Trump's campaign. According to the Washington Times, the RNC has deployed paid staff in 18 states, including 7 battlegrounds, focusing on recruiting and training volunteers. And ABC News is reporting approximately 5,000 volunteer attorneys will operate in legal war rooms to address issues at the polls in real time. Legal wrangling over election rules, especially around mail-in ballots, continues with many cases involving disputes about voter rolls. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris's campaign has assembled its own legal team, anticipating potential disputes post-election. Mike?
The United States Department of Homeland Security has identified more than 600 illegal immigrants with suspected ties to the violent Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. According to the Texas scorecard, approximately 100 of the 600 are confirmed gang members, and the DHS recommended those confirmed members be placed on the FBI watch list. NBC News also reported that the gang currently has a presence in at least 15 states across the U.S. and a possible presence in another 8 others. The Daily Caller reported law enforcement experts say that due to this lack of intelligence about Tren de Aragua, the 600 figure is not reflective of the gang's real presence in the United States. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump recently said if he is elected, he will send elite squads of ICE, Border Patrol, and law enforcement officers to hunt down and arrest every illegal immigrant gang member and deport them. Some Republican lawmakers are questioning the Biden-Harris administration over illegal immigrants assaulting Border Patrol agents and the insufficient response by the U.S. government. Led by Arizona Republican Congressman Andy Biggs, the group sent a letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland and Acting Customs and Border Patrol Commissioner Troy Miller asking about illegal immigrants who assault border agents while attempting to evade capture. Fox News reported in fiscal year 2023, over 600 agents were assaulted, and in fiscal year 2024, at least 400 assaults have been reported. The GOP lawmakers indicated the agent statements about the assaults contradict claims that the agency is working closely with the Department of Justice to hold the criminals, aliens, accountable. Greg.
The Biden-Harris administration has reportedly been busing and flying illegal immigrants encountered at California's overwhelmed southern border to send them out of state, rather than release them onto the streets. San Diego County Supervisor Jim Desmond says Democrats are worried that letting them free in the Golden State would give a bad impression before the November election. According to Fox News, currently 3 buses a day leave for Yuma, Arizona, and 3 to 4 airplanes a week fly illegal immigrants from San Diego to McAllen, Texas. The county supervisor told Fox News Digital, quote, "I think the optics of having more people dropped off or starting that drop-off process again, I think is politically harmful, and so they're not going to do it potentially till after the election." Joining us now is political strategist, CEO of Mason Borough Strategies, Victory News contributor Luke Ball. Luke, welcome to Victory News.
Thanks, Greg.
Biden-Harris administration's transferring illegal immigrants out of California from the border there to make things look better before the election. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris is trying to dance around her own flip-flopping on the southern border with CNN's Anderson Cooper. Here it is.
Is a border wall stupid?
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump and that border wall. I just talked about that wall, right? We just talked about it. He didn't actually do much of anything.
But you do want to build some wall.
I want to strengthen our border.
So are people buying her new tough politician act after 4 years of a border crisis?
No, she was out there saying that a border wall was racist, and that was so completely not true that now when she is faced with the actual proof and the actual evidence saying that you have a border crisis on your hands, what would you do when you got into the White House if you were elected? She has to admit and dance around the fact that a border wall would do good. She knows that she has failed on the border, and the whole optics of trying to kind of sweep the migrant crisis under the rug at the last minute, I hope it doesn't work with the voters, because Kamala Harris was the border czar. She can never run away from that. She can never run away from her abysmal record of failing to secure the United States of America. And now that she's faced with facts, she's crumbling under the pressure.
Okay, let's listen to Kamala Harris at last night's CNN town hall one more time as Anderson Cooper asked her what some call the million-dollar question.
You've been in the White House for 4 years. You were vice president, not the president. But why wasn't any of that done for the last 4 years?
Well, there was a lot that was done, but there's more to do, Anderson. And I'm pointing out things that need to be done, that haven't been done, but need to be done.
Luke, I want to see if you can get this done. Can you find any substance in that answer?
Well, there's a reason that Joe Biden has no plans to campaign with Kamala Harris over the next couple of weeks. It's for the same reason you don't put lead in a life jacket. That would drag you down very quickly, and remind the American people that this is the ticket that failed them for 4 years over and over and over again. Kamala Harris is directly tied to the Biden failures because it is the Biden-Harris administration. Karine Jean-Pierre is at front of the White House podium saying this is the Biden-Harris administration over and over again. Joe Biden saying that we did things in tandem. Kamala Harris saying she was the last person in the room. All of the failures of the Joe Biden administration are the failures of the Kamala Harris administration because she is in office right now.
Okay, we're really close in the election now, time-wise, so I think there's going to be more of this. The Guardian dropped a story yesterday made by a former model and activist for Barack Obama, which was announced on Harris' campaign call, claiming that Donald Trump had groped her 31 years ago. This after the smear campaign from the Atlantic accusing Trump of praising Hitler. Is this what we can expect for the next 12 days?
Unfortunately, yes, because the left is throwing everything in the kitchen sink at Donald Trump because they know that he is surging. I truly believe in the last few weeks we start to see him rising above Kamala Harris in the polls. And the thing is that the October surprises are generally reserved for these candidates that have been in office for a very short period of time, maybe have been a member of Congress or a Senate. Everything has been examined with Donald Trump. All of the lies, all of the past controversies, everything has been drawn out over the last almost 10 years. Do you think that there was something that had not been previously reported, something that hadn't gone unnoticed or, redrawn up by the left wing or liberal media? That's simply not the case. And so they're trotting out Kamala Harris, trying to give these talking points as if it's an October surprise of her own making, when in reality, these falsehoods were drawn up years and years ago, and now they're just trying to rehash them.
All right. Today is the final day of Russian President Vladimir Putin's BRICS summit to discuss a new world order that's free from Western influence and the global dominance of the U.S. dollar. What's the benefit he has there to reduce reliance on the U.S. dollar?
Well, the United States of America needs to ensure that our currency remains the world reserve currency right now so that we can continue to be the dominant force behind a driving economy. And the problem here with Vladimir Putin's presentation is that he is trying to posture and strengthen his own outward appearance towards the rest of the world that has been significantly diminished by his invasion of Ukraine and, frankly, the failed takeover of Ukraine. So you're going to start to see some of this stuff from world leaders. But I also think that it just shows the sign of weakness that the administration that we currently has on the world stage, where we can't even posture very strongly and say that we are in charge or in control. Vladimir Putin's out here giving his own conferences. Very
interesting. We do need to show strength, and especially with the dollar. Luke, thank you so much. Bring you back in just a moment.
Thanks.
Mike?
Greg, Argentinian President Javier Milei announced plans to shut down the country's tax collection agency as part of his broader effort to reduce government spending and bureaucracy. According to Reason.com, it will be replaced by a more streamlined agency designed to handle tax collection and customs control. The move is aimed at cutting unnecessary bureaucracy, reducing corruption, and improving efficiency. The agency's closure will lead to significant staff reductions and save an estimated $6.4 million annually. Milei's broader strategy focuses on reducing the fiscal deficit, shrinking the size of government, and combating inflation, with other reforms already implemented, including cutting subsidies and devaluing the currency. Fiora.
Mike, the sister and attorney of a slain Texas soldier, Vanessa Guillen, blasted Jeffrey Goldberg, the Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Tuesday for alleging former President Donald Trump disparaged the soldier's ethnicity and reneged on paying for funeral expenses. The article claimed Trump had previously agreed to pay Guillen's funeral expenses, but fumed when the $60,000 bill arrived. Myra Guillen, Vanessa's sister, accused Goldberg of exploiting and dishonoring her sister for political gain.
And it was just a slap in the face to my family, myself mainly, being the main spokesperson for them and for my sister, who unfortunately passed away. It was just a lie from the very beginning.
The family's attorney said Goldberg lied and called the timing of his report quite suspicious, and noting the purported conversation occurred over 4 years ago. Billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman, who endorsed Donald Trump for president in July, explained on CNBC on Wednesday why he is supporting the re-election of the former president.
Let's talk about team for a moment, because it's not really Trump versus Harris. It's the Trump team versus the Harris team, right? So what have we seen? So Trump's picked J.D. Vance as his vice president. Kamala's picked Walz. Walz is a self-described knucklehead, right? I can't imagine a world in which this guy is president of the United States. And you have to look at the vice president as a potential president of the United States.
Ackman also mentioned Trump's endorsement by SpaceX founder Elon Musk and former presidential candidate Bobby Kennedy Jr., who have both agreed to be part of a Trump administration. Tim?
Fiora, the Republican Party of South Carolina has made state officials aware of an alleged Democratic ballot harvesting operation in Marion County after they found multiple voters registered at vacant addresses. Just the News reports that on Monday, the state GOP said it found a paid Democratic staffer and 15 other voters registered at an address that is currently vacant. Additionally, in one precinct, the number of absentee ballots increased by 844 between the February presidential primary election and the June state primary. And they also discovered at least 5 paid Democratic campaign workers have a different voter registration address than their reported address on a campaign financial disclosure. GOP Chairman Drew McKissick said, quote, clearly what's happening in Marion County does not pass the smell test. Speaker Mike Johnson and House Republicans have widened their probe into Act Blue, the Democrat-run fundraising platform. GOP is investigating whether foreign adversaries used Act Blue to funnel money into Democratic Party campaigns. Just the News reports as part of that probe, the Speaker shared a website Wednesday where Americans can check whether their names have been used for any political donations without their permission. Lawmakers have specifically demanded any suspicious activity reports related to monies passing through Act Blue that were filed by U.S. financial institutions as part of their money laundering activities. According to Johnson, examples brought forth show small dollar donations have been made in the name of U.S. citizens who had no knowledge. The website for people to search their information is checkmydonation.org. Mike?
Tim, heavy early voting turnout in the swing state of Wisconsin overwhelmed systems, leading to long wait times Tuesday on the first day of in-person voting. According to the Associated Press, more than 97,000 people cast ballots on the first day in Wisconsin, 17,000 more than in 2020. According to election officials, the larger than expected voter turnout Tuesday bogged down the WIS vote system that clerks used to print the labels placed on the outside of in-person absentee ballots. The issue also occurred on Wednesday. Dane County Clerk Scott McDonald said he wasn't surprised with the high level of turnout on the first day, predicting the turnout will remain high for a couple of days and then likely drop off. And joining us now is the leader in the constitutional conservative movement and executive director of Grassroots America, We the People, the largest all-volunteer constitutional conservative organization in Texas. Joanne Fleming, welcome back to Victory News.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Joanne, we just heard how Wisconsin was overwhelmed by early voting and the pressure it really puts on a voting system. Other reports are showing Republicans turning out in historic numbers for early voting. Is this a good sign for Donald Trump and other conservative candidates, do you think?
Oh, yes. I believe America First candidates from Donald Trump all the way down the ticket are going to see a continued surge at the polls. I believe that the American people, and in particular Texans, want to save the United States from the leftist agenda. And I will tell you, in Texas, Republican voting at this point compared to 2020 is up 10%. The Democrats are up by 7%. So we are seeing increased turnout among Republicans, and we continue to say, don't go vote alone. Take 10 friends with you.
And Joanne, what are you hearing about what's happening in the state of Texas in terms of voting and election integrity?
Well, we have issues. We absolutely do. We have voting systems that fail some logic and accuracy tests. We also have the waiving of Texas election code laws by the Secretary of State, which I have been very clear that only the legislature can change law. So we have work ahead of us, but I will tell you that I believe the turnout is going to overwhelm the shenanigans in Texas. I do.
And Joanne, the New York Times published an article revealing a long-running study investigating the effects of puberty blockers on minors has not been released. The reason, well, fear of the results will show evidence that transgender medical acts are harming children. Could these surgeries and medical prescriptions prove to be criminal one day?
Oh, absolutely. And actually, the UK is ahead of us. Many European countries are, their legislatures, legislative bodies are turning against the gender transitioning surgeries and prescriptions, the puberty blockers. So I believe the United States will be, we will be following them, but I believe there's a huge backlash coming against these medical treatments that are done without the right types of testing.
Yeah, Joanne. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has identified over 600 illegal aliens in the U.S. who may have connections to Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. NBC reports TDA currently has a confirmed presence in 15 different states in the U.S. and a possible presence in 8 others. Does the Biden-Harris administration have a plan to answer this growing danger created by their open southern border?
No. Kamala Harris continues to talk about, Donald Trump's failings, and we know that Donald Trump gave us the most secure border we had had in decades. And he also was a president that believed in law and order. She does not. Kamala Harris is talking about amnesty for illegals. That is the one talking point that she can get right. She talks about amnesty and having comprehensive immigration reform that does not secure the border.
Joanne, Politico wrote an article revealing Democrat insiders say Kamala Harris' campaign is in disarray. Her ground game in the state is suffering, and she cannot win in November without the state of Pennsylvania, the Keystone State. So, Joanne, how can that be with just days remaining in the race that the campaign is going through this kind of an issue?
Well, I think that her campaign is reflective of the kind of administration the Biden-Harris administration has been, and that is an administration in disarray. I will say this. I don't want people to believe the polls. You need to go out and vote for America First policies. Look, 1 in 10 people used to answer polls. Now it's like 1 in 30. So people just need to go vote for America First. Vote for truth, vote for life.
All right, be sure to visit Grassroots America, We the People at GAWTP.com. And Joanne, great to have you on Victory News with us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Fjord.
Mike, recent reports indicate that North Korea has sent troops to Russia, where thousands of soldiers are being trained to possibly help fight in Ukraine. According to the Washington Times, these reports say that 3,000 North Korean soldiers are currently being trained in Russia, with that number expected to reach 10,000 by December. The move raises serious concerns about growing military ties between the two nations. Senator Lindsey Graham traveled to Ukraine in August and shared his viewpoint about the current reports of North Korean troops in Russia.
Well, I think they're not tourists. I think this is just another sign of how dangerous the world is under Biden-Harris. There's no deterrence. Deterrence has been lost everywhere. So North Korea feels comfortable joining Russia, trying to destroy Ukraine, says all you need to know about lack of deterrence.
North Korea's increasing military aid to Russia could change the balance of power, especially for South Korea and its allies. It is also raising concerns about security in Europe and the Indo-Pacific areas. Navy veteran Zachary Young was cleared of any wrongdoing in his legal case against CNN. The court ruled on Tuesday he did not break the law during the Afghan evacuations, helping to restore his reputation. The Young versus CNN legal battle stems from a report CNN aired in 2021. Which Zachary Young claims defamed him by falsely suggesting his company profited unlawfully during Afghan evacuations. According to Fox News, CNN's case and defense against Young included references to Sharia and Taliban law, suggesting Young's actions may have been illegal under those systems. The judge dismissed these arguments, stating that such claims were irrelevant. Young is now suing CNN for defamation. The judge's ruling moves Young's defamation case to trial, putting the spotlight on important issues like using Sharia law in American legal cases and raising important questions about the responsibility of media outlets when reporting on sensitive topics. Tim?
Fewer Protestants want pastors to address hot-button issues. In fact, a whopping 80% of them believe that, according to a new survey. A Lifeway report released Tuesday shows 80% of Protestants believe a pastor must address current issues to be doing their job. Scott McConnell, executive director of Lifeway Research, was quoted as saying, as the culture increasingly includes fewer overtly Christian elements and more non-Christian ideas, churchgoers are hungry to know what the Bible says about life's lessons. The survey was conducted online, 1,008 U.S. Protestant churchgoers from September 19th through the 29th, with a margin of error of plus or minus 3.2%. Greg?
With Election Day less than 2 weeks away, veteran political commentator Mark Halpern is warning false bombshell stories about Donald Trump are being pitched to news outlets by desperate actors during this election cycle. Earlier this week, Halpern reported on his live stream show, The Morning Meeting, that bad faith actors are shopping around to find a reporter to break a supposed bombshell story.
I know of one story that's been pitched to a major newspaper and to me, and for all I know to many others, that I don't believe is true. But if it's true, as I said yesterday, it would end Donald Trump's campaign.
Political commentator says he's gotten a lot of pressure from media outlets to disclose the story being pitched to him. and he says no. Before we go, let's talk with Victory News contributor Luke Ball. Luke, we mentioned that a little bit earlier, but Kamala Harris is trying to be her own October surprise, running with slander from a book written by disgruntled and dismissed Trump political advisor John Kelly. Here that is.
It is clear from John Kelly's words that Donald Trump is someone who, I quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist.
All right, everybody's trying to do shock and awe. I would have asked her, what is a fascist? What are your thoughts about what we're seeing now in these last few days?
Well, let me set aside totally Mark's assertion of somebody trying to shop something around and just discuss how the media works in the Beltway and beyond of Washington, D.C. It does not matter whether or not something is legitimate or something is true. If you can get two anonymous sources to say that it happened, a lot of times that's way more than enough for a newspaper, some outlet on the left-wing media to pick it up and run with it. That's how things work in this town. And then they just assume it's incumbent upon the person they're writing about to defend themselves, to come out and say it didn't happen. But by that time, because the person has come out and defended themselves, that means that other outlets have a license to come in and write that story up. And so this is how the media will spin something up. They know the cycle of trying to have some sort of defense will then kick up another news cycle. And this back and forth will happen all the way up until Election Day. There will not be a legitimate argument against Donald Trump, but there will be anonymous sources that try to get newspaper articles to write about it. And then other outlets will write about the fact that that outlet broke it first, and then they'll write about the defense of the person they're going against. It is a big mess. It is a lot of lies, and I hope that the clarity is the truth breaks through before Election Day.
Okay, instead of reporting the news, they're creating the news. One issue that Kamala Harris does have a policy for is abortion. She said there can be no religious exemptions on killing unborn children. What would that mean to medical professors who believe that life is sacred?
Well, make no mistake, a potential Harris administration would go after pro-life medical professionals just as hard as the Biden-Harris administration went after anybody that disagreed with them on the medical front with respect to the COVID vaccine or anything else. They will label sincere beliefs and these faith-based beliefs that we hold so dear as dis and misinformation, and they will try to attack our First Amendment rights, and that is why it is imperative that we not see Kamala Harris in the Oval Office.
All right. Luke Ball, thank you so much. Be sure to keep up with Luke and his observations on issues in the culture. Visit lukeball.org and follow him online at Luke T. Ball. Always great to have you with us. Thank you so much for the clarity that you bring.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, there's a phone number on the bottom of the screen that you can call, 877-281-6297, 877-281-6297. Licensed prayer minister is ready to pray with you. Listen, there's going to be a lot of false reports, a lot of sensationalized stories. We just heard that. Luke brought us the truth on that. We're already seeing this thing gin up. It reminds me of a time that 12 spies were sent into the promised land, their own land, and 10 came back with a false report. It was the truth. There were giants in the land, but they were already afraid of them, and their hearts melted for fear. You cannot allow that to happen to you in this election cycle. You have to be steady, trust in Him who knows the truth. All right, make sure you make the phone call and let somebody pray with you. Lord, we pray for our audience right now. We will not be moved by that which is sensational. We only follow truth. We follow your voice. In Jesus' name, amen. I come against fear in the name of Jesus. And thanks to Luke Ball, Joanne Fleming, especially you. Thanks for joining today. We return at 5 Eastern, 4 Central with the Western Journal's Josh Manning. Make sure you're here as well. The world reports the problem. Victory Channel gives you the answers. One of those answers is whatever is born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that's overcome the world, our faith. So you stay in faith. God bless you. And I'll look for you this evening at 5 Eastern. Bye for now.